reka nkwihoreze ndetse nicyo wambyariye nicyo wandereye none ubwo maze gukura ngatora agatege ubwo naciye akenge reka ngukorere nkoresha ibyiza wampaye maze nkwihoreze.
We appreciate that you're here to join us in this commemoration, a powerful reminder of what happened, but also a discussion about what we can do in the future. We're going to start with a documentary called The Journey to Hell. That was made by the National Commission on Genocide in Rwanda. Throughout this program, please remember this is a very solemn day. You have survivors who are sitting in this room who will be thinking about what they went through, thinking about their loved ones. Over 1 million people who were murdered. There were parents, there were children. There were people with dreams and ambitions, just like you and I. So we'll keep that in mind throughout the day, throughout the lunch, throughout the afternoon program, and continue the tradition of kwibuka, to remember. We thank you so much for coming to be with us for the 19th commemoration of the genocide against Tutsis that happened in 1994. For those who just came in a little while ago, you just watched a documentary made in Rwanda by Rwandans called The Journey to Hell. Talked about the discussions, the debates that are happening in Rwanda, the consequences of the genocide. You saw people who are older, younger generations. It was a mix of people speaking. This program is a solemn program. We have survivors in the room who witnessed genocide firsthand. We have people who will be thinking about what that meant to them, what it means to them, and how that will continue to affect their lives. But it's also a program that will also talk about the future, what we can do to prevent genocide, the greatest crime humans can commit. You have a program in front of you. If you don't have it, please feel free to get one from the back. We have speakers who have come from across the country, from different countries to be with us. Take the time to understand, to learn, and to share what you learned today. At this moment, we're going to start with the national anthems of Rwanda and the US, and we'll start with the Rwandan anthem. At this moment, we stand for a minute of silence. It's now my honor to welcome Yvette Rukasagahunga, who is a survivor, a leader in the Rwandan community throughout this country, but especially in the New York area, where we both live. She's been the spearperson to organize this commemoration, as she did last year.
Your Excellency, Engineer James Kimonyo, Ambassador of Rwanda to the United States, Your Excellency Clotilde Maranga Gasarabwe, United Nations Assistant Secretary General, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, and honorable friends of Rwanda, fellow compatriots, fellow survivors, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm honored and deeply humbled to be in your presence. On behalf of the Rwandan community in the United States, in partnership with the Embassy of Rwanda to the US, I would like to warmly welcome you and thank you for traveling this far to stand with us as we mourn the loss of 1 million of our own, parents, children, siblings, other relatives, friends, acquaintances, neighbors and strangers whose lives were heartlessly taken simply because they were born Tutsi, looked Tutsi, or because they were perceived as Hutu traitors for opposing the anti-Tutsi propaganda led by the then government of Rwanda. At this time, we, the survivors, can't help but wonder, why them? Why then? Why that way? As we tap on the very scarce yet extremely valuable resources we inherited, we recognize the need to reach out to our neighboring countries and overseas, not to proclaim our victimhood, but our stewardship of peace, unity, and reconciliation, the beacon to our political and socio-economic transformation, as we strengthen our existing and seek new partnership throughout the world. You, friends of Rwanda in the room, stand as a testimony to our victory. Stand as a testimony to our victorious journey of Renaissance.
As we strive to self-reliance, I'm reminded of Ezekiel when he stood in his day in his country, Israel. The scripture says his country was a valley of very dry bones. That was the situation. But the most interesting thing is that God told him, Ezekiel, speak life into these dry bones. Interestingly, bones don't have ears. How could they hear? Rwanda is speaking life because we believe that God has taken us out of a horrible pit.
Our first testimony, our first speaker is Mrs. Tabitha Mugenzi. She's a Rwandan born. She was born in Rwanda in the Western Province. She left her beloved country to attend school in Niles, Michigan in 1989. While it was believed that school was her primary intention to leave Rwanda, there was another very important reason for her going abroad: survival. Tabitha and her family, like all the other Tutsis, were condemned to discrimination, oppression, and bad treatment simply because of who they were and where they originated from. Hope for her was to be found only outside the country. When the genocide took place, Tabitha was in Canada, where she lives with her husband and children. She may have survived the apparent physical torture of the genocide, but the emotional wounds continue to haunt her. Her testimony is a journey she has been on and continues to live, to tell.
It was not
my initiative to leave my country, Rwanda. It was not. 1989, my sister, her husband, and one of my brothers came to me, told me that I have to leave. Beginning of October 1990, someone called me from Kenya, Africa, and he said, Tabitha, things are getting bad in Rwanda. As desperate as I was, I went to work. There is a gentleman, he used to work with me. He was Rwandese. He came from Rwanda. He was a Hutu. That day, he was smiling, happier more than ever. He came to me. He said, I am so proud. I am so proud today. I am so proud of my country, my people. I am so proud of my president. You have no idea how they killed your sister. I love it.
Thank you, Tabitha, for calling upon the past today, in spite of the difficulty in doing so. For stepping back into the dark reaches of your memory and losses, and lighting our way with your words. For communicating the loss you once endured and what you continue to endure. I stand here with a heavy heart, and yet emboldened by the trust of all the rescapés who opened their lives to me and shared their stories with me. I do not speak for them, nor on their behalf, but rather for myself, as a witness to their memories and how they bear them. I speak both as an outsider, but also as a friend, a brother, and a son who has inherited these relationships and a history that was at once not my own, yet has become entwined with my own. Since establishing the archive in 2006, I have learned over and over from the rescapés how essential it is that they establish their own histories and family legacies and transmit them to their children. To withhold their histories would be like denying the genocide, one survivor shared with me. Unless her family history is recorded, she said, when she dies, so too will her family name.
The title of my presentation is a question, and that is, who speaks for the survivors of the genocide against Tutsi, Rwandan Tutsi in particular? When we address this question, of course, we have to look at what the different connotations this question brings. What is suggested in that question? Are we saying who actually speaks for the survivors? Or who speaks on behalf of survivors? Who speaks for the survivors but shouldn't? Who does not speak but should? Who does not speak but couldn't? There are many other questions that came up with that, including whose voice is not allowed to come out. In current terms, I would put it this way, and this is something I'm trying to articulate, and if you do not get anything that I'm talking about today, here's a sentence that I want you to retain. The problems are over there. The solutions are from here. Again, remember, I'm in the US, I'm in the West. The problems are over there. The solutions are from here. In addition, the diagnosis of the problems are over here, in the US or in the West. So that is one thing that I want you to retain.